Okay, let's see. Okay, I'm getting better at this. Okay, so let's get going. Thank you for joining us today. We're going to talk about Google Analytics in this presentation today. Um, okay, there we go. So my name is Miranda Gilbert. I own a digital marketing agency called Girl Geek Communications. My company does online presence management for companies all over the country. Online presence management is kind of an all-encompassing term used for website design, social media management, online reputation, and online advertising. So basically, anything that you do online with your company is usually something I can help with. I'm a certified Grow with Google partner, and I'm actually this with this presentation. I'll be what they call a gold partner, and it's like the highest level of partnership you can have with them. So that's good. You have to do a minimum of a certain amount of presentations per year to achieve that status. So I've been volunteering with this program for a number of years. So I'm really happy to be a part of this program. Um, and so what does that actually mean? It doesn't mean I work for Google. I'm a volunteer for this program with Google. But I do have a direct line to the folks at Google, and I can ask questions to them directly. And so it kind of helps if I have a problem with something, it helps to be able to connect with them. So without any further ado, let's get into this here. And this is about Google Analytics, and you've probably heard this term before. And unless you're actually a website person or a marketer, you maybe never even touched this. And then if you went in there to Google Analytics, you might have taken one look and said, "Oh my God, this is too much," because it is. There's a lot of information in there, and it can be really overwhelming. And so what we're going to go through here are some of the key factors that you can look at in your Google Analytics account to help you decide if your website is working for you. We're also going to go into how you can actually set up your Google My Business listing too. So, or not, excuse me, not Google My Business listing. My apologies. Google Analytics. So we're going to go walk you through how to actually install Google Analytics in this first part, and then we're going to talk about how to actually use the data that Google Analytics creates for you. So I just lost my notes. Let me just grab that. All right. So. Um, the first part of the class, we're going to discuss what data is and how we can use it to drive our business decisions. Then we're going to go into the basics of setting up your Google Analytics account, and that will help you start collecting data from your website. Now, when you first install your Google Analytics account, you're not going to get any back data because nothing's being tracked. So you're going to have that installed, and then the data will be everything going forward. So during the second part of the class, we're going to review the questions, some questions that we have regarding how to understand what it is that your customers really want. That'll make more sense when I get to it. And then we're going to show you how to pull some reports in Google Analytics to see to gain the insights to make sure that you're reaching your goals. So this quote serves to remind us that getting data is not really the problem anymore. We have lots and lots of data with tracking cookies and all kinds of stuff that's out there. Um, what we really need is insights. And there's a difference between what insights are and what data is. So Google's opportunity with analytics is that we take a huge amount of the data that we have, and we make it manageable for people to be able to interpret it. So we need to find interconnections and patterns and themes, and then we build in context to be able to genuinely understand what people are doing on your website. And the ultimate goal of all of this is to provide actionable insight that you can use to prove or disprove a hypothesis. But first, we have to understand what insight is and how we should approach analytics. So, first, let's define what insights are. Insights help you create more effective business solutions using strategies informed by real consumer truths, whether they're brand strategies, creative ideas, product innovations, or media plans. The trouble is, insights are notoriously hard to pin down. You ask 100 people what the definition of insight is, and you're going to get 100 different answers, probably more. What is clear is that when businesses look at Google or look to Google for help finding insights, they're not just looking at data. Insights are based on data, but they're novel, credible, and actionable enough for them to be able to unlock new opportunities. So, a great insight is unexpected yet obvious, right? Mind blowing. Unexpected but obvious. So, let's take a closer look. Um, let's define some of the terms that we're talking about here. So, data is information that you obtain from your users, like demographic information, behavioral information, and activity. Analytics are patterns and trends discovered in data. It's how you make sense of it all and how you uncover meaningful trends. Now, insights are the value that you gain from data and analytics. Insights should be actionable and prescriptive. In other words, you know what you need to do next. That's the goal. So, here's an example. Let's assume you have an e commerce website. So, an example of data with an e commerce site might be that the data shows you had 1,500 site visits in the past 30 days. Analytics shows that 30% accessed your site from mobile devices. Excuse me. Now, insights would reveal that visitors using mobile devices are 60% more likely to convert. So, there's the difference between those terms. If you're new to data and analytics, this is going to seem really overwhelming, but let's take a look at ways to use data to help make your decisions instead of relying on just gut instincts. I love gut instincts, but we need to take a look and incorporate data into that as well. Um, and this involves just gathering the tools that we need to be able to take a look at this information. All right. So Google Analytics is a free tool. And when you set it up, it provides you with all the data and information that you need to help understand what your customers are doing on your website and then make decisions based on that insight. So, ideally, your website leads the user from one page of useful content to the next until they finally make a conversion. A conversion is something like make a purchase or make a phone call or fill out a form. Building personalized experiences starts with good data. Google Analytics can help you better understand your audience and the insights their activity gives you so you can make more strategic decisions about your business. So, spend time with your user data and your site analytics to find opportunities to customize the experience for users that drive additional value. Um, we can learn what search terms and sources drive the most traffic. To remedy a high bounce rate, for example, or a misalignment between your visitors and your website content, examine in detail your visitors' interaction with your web pages and the nature of traffic, why those visitors are arriving at your website in the first place. Um, all right. Oops, I got rid of my notes. Give me a second. Okay. We can also see demographic information about your most profitable customers. So we can look at useful ways to segment your users rather than designing one experience for everybody or maybe the average user. You might be able to design something that is more for a certain demographic of user, and maybe um, if you find that your target audience is 40-year-old women, you might be able to design a better experience for them. um, Understand what content your audience is most interested in. You can evaluate your traffic, and that can help you identify who is and isn't finding your page content to be useful. It can also drive your decision making when it comes to the content that you decide to highlight on your website. This is one of my favorites because when I work with clients, they always tell me everything has to be on the front page and everything has to be um, at the top, right? You can't possibly have everything on the front page and everything on the top of the page. And so you can use analytics to help people. You can help figure out what people are actually you're visiting your website to find, and then make sure that that information is front and center. Spoiler alert: one of the most common things that people are looking for on your website is when you're open, how to find you, and how to get a hold of you. So those things should be front and center all the time. Um, and it's not the case with everybody. You might have an online company and they don't care where you're at. But anyways, you can also evaluate which channels drive the most conversions for you. So you can understand where your traffic comes from and what drives those conversions on your website to help you have smarter advertising, smarter content, and smarter design. So, to start collecting data, we're going to walk you through how to actually set this up. Now, um, if you don't have access to the back end of your website, this is something that your web designer does for you. Even though your web designer installs this for you, they can actually give you access to Google Analytics, and you don't have to be, a web designer to have access to be able to see this. So, but let's say you're a small business owner and you want to do this yourself. So you're going to go to g.co/analytics and you're going to do one of the following. You're going to create an account and you're going to click the start this for free, or you can sign into your account if you have a Google account. A Google account can be a Gmail account, or you can use your business account. So if you have a business like Miranda at girlgeekllc.com, you can use that account to create a Google account, if that makes sense. And I actually would encourage you that if you have a business email account, use that to be able to log into analytics. All right. So once you get into your account, you're going to go to a screen that looks like this. And one of the most important parts about setting this up is getting your tracking ID on your website. So you can see here, you're going to go to, you click on admin and you select a property from the menu. Um, and if you may not have a property, but if because if you're setting this up for the first time, you're actually going to click the create property button. And a property, what's a property? It's a website. So you're going to create a property and you'll enter in your information about your URL and it walks you through that. It's not complicated. And then you're going to get to this part here where you're going to have to install this tracking ID on your website. Now, this might be where you might want the help of a web designer if you're a do-it-yourself person, or you might use a tool like Wix or Squarespace, something like that. A lot of times they have a spot where you can put this tracking ID right in there. So whatever it is that you use, you can do this. So I'm going to skip ahead. There we go. All right. So, clear as mud, right? How to set that up. Long and short of it is, if you're really uncomfortable setting that up, contact your web designer and they'll help you get that set up and they can grant you access to that. So, so you guys can both look at the analytics. So now that you know how to set up an analytics account, let's dive into what you can actually learn with new insights. Now, when you put the tracking code in, that's when Google starts tracking the information. You're not going to get any back data because nothing was being tracked before you set that up. So everything, if you install analytics today, you're not going to have any data to look at until a week or so down the line. And even then, it's a month is probably what you're really going to want to look at. So let me introduce you to Ava and Ricky. Ava and Ricky are small business owners and they sell clothing on an online store. Now, up until now, Ava and Ricky have been making most of their big decisions for their e-commerce business, either on their own gut instincts or just feelings that they get from existing or past customers. They might have a customer that comes into or that sends them an email and says, "Oh, I would love to have a t-shirt that says this." Okay, great. And that sounds good to them. So they go ahead and make that decision. But what they did is they decided to set up Google Analytics to get a better understanding of what really is and isn't working on their website so they can make a more strategic business decision. We're going to use the Google Merchandise Store Analytics account to represent Ava and Ricky's e-commerce store. Now, you can access this account from your own device if you'd like. And so you can actually practice on this before you set up your own account. I'm going to put that link in the chat. Now you can take a look at that if you'd like. All right, so I'm going to move on here. All right, so sometimes making decisions on a gut instinct works great, right? We've all done it. But it's almost always better to base decisions and action on data. It's not nearly as much fun, right, guys? But it's more important to have that data. Many decisions you could see improved results if data supports them. So, for example, Ava and Ricky would experiment with new t-shirts designs, and then immediately they'd add them to their website banner without collecting data from their audience on the need or desire for those new designs. And um, on this we've included an image of 3 new t-shirts, and they actually put this, like, on their banner, and they put that there. So, when sales were down for Ava and Ricky, on a particular item, what they would do is they would go in and put a sale on it. So instead of cutting prices when sales were down, Ava and Ricky could have boosted visibility by advertising or trying different promotions using the data to see if it helped. They were just doing sales. And most of us who work in marketing know that sales, they work in some industries, but the truth be told, doing like coupons and sales, they're cutting into your profit margin. So it's an easy way to try and boost sales, but it's not always the right way. Um, so when Ava and Ricky started their e-commerce business, they assumed that their customer base would be females aged 35 to 44. And they used that to drive their marketing initiatives, but weren't collecting any data at that point. So that's where they were at. And so you can kind of see how data is going to be able to help them. Now, one of the most important things you have to do as a business owner when you start using data is you have to set goals. You can't achieve goals if you don't have goals set. And this is a number one thing when I work with clients that they have a hard time nailing down. So it's really hard. We're going to walk through how to do this, but don't skip this step because you cannot achieve your goals if you don't have goals in the first place. Um, some examples might be, what outcomes do you want to see? What do you want to improve? Do you want to increase your web traffic by 40%? What questions do you need to ask? What information do you need to achieve those goals? Um, uh, the questions we might ask about offline advertising campaigns sometimes work here too. The third thing here is, which tools and reports can help you get the answers to see that you're achieving your goals? We're going to cover that too. So the first step, outlining goals. Start with an outcome in mind. What do you want to happen? And write it down. Don't just, assume. What are you trying to achieve? Everything that you do with analytics is going to help support this goal. So there are many types of goals, and we've all seen this SMART measure before. So one simple example is, maybe we want to increase web traffic by 40%. But is this goal meaningful? What does increasing your web traffic by 40% really mean? So let's talk about what a better goal would be. And we'll use the SMART framework. So is the goal specific and detailed? Can you track the goal? How will you measure it? How will you know when you've accomplished the goal? Is the goal realistically attainable? Excuse me. Will this goal help you reach your business goals? And is it relevant to your business? And when do you want to achieve this goal? Set an actual time frame. So Ava and Ricky set a goal for their merchandising store. They wanted to decrease the shopping cart abandonment by 60%. So, or to lower than 60%, excuse me. So they used analytics to find out how many users were adding stuff to their cart over a period of time. And then they compared that number to the total transactions during the same time period. And they were able to measure a piece of data called cart abandonment rate. So as time went on, they made modifications to the checkout process to decrease that number. And things they might have done were like making it easier to check out. Simple as that. The more steps you have in a process like that, the less likely people are going to move forward with that purchase. So With every incremental change, they reviewed those numbers to see the effect. They did them in small pieces. They didn't do a bunch at once. That's good. Ultimately, they were able to drive the cart abandonment rate down to less than 45%. Now, every site has a different goal. Some might be online orders, some might be to generate leads, others would want engagement, comments on blog posts or something to that effect. So, everybody is going to be different. So, what are your goals? Uh, Normally, if I was doing this in person, I would have you write down some of your goals right now, but I'll just assume that you can handle that on your own and we'll just move on. But don't skip this step, it's super important. So, for current business owners, think about the existing goals you have for your business and what you want to monitor and measure with Google Analytics. For those who haven't created a website yet, what purpose do you think your website will serve? What do you want your website to do? Many people come to me and they're like, I want a website. I'm like, great. What do you want to do? What do you want to do with it? And they're like, well, I don't know. I need a website. Okay. Your website should have a goal. So, do you want to use your website to generate leads? Do you want your website to be informative? Just, like, here's where we are, here's how to get a hold of us, here's what we do. That's fine. You may want your website to be e-commerce and you want to make actual sales. So, those are some of the samples of goals that you have, but make sure that your website has a goal. Now you want to ask questions. Um, let's take some examples of questions that you may ask to help you meet your goals. The framework that you see represents stages of a business's relationship with customers. So you ask questions and you use answers to move customers through these stages. So first, reach customers with methods like advertising, online advertising, organic search results, social media, and offline promotions. After they arrive, you need to engage them. Can they find what it is that they're looking for on your website? Then it's conversion time. The goal to help visitors complete an action on your website. It might be to buy a T-shirt. It might be to submit a form. It might be to sign up for a newsletter, something like that. Ultimately, you want to sustain long-term relationships and get customers to return. This could be with a rewards program or discounts or newsletters or something to that effect. So, sorry, I'm talking a lot. If anybody has any questions while I'm doing this, feel free to pop them in the chat section, or you can unmute your microphone and just yell at me. All right, so we have goals and we have questions that we need to ask. So at this point, what tools can help us answer those questions? So earlier you learned how to set up your Google Analytics account. So now let's look at reports that you can pull from your Google Analytics report once Google has gotten some of the information that it needs. When you log into analytics, the homepage gives you a summary of what's interesting about your data. These cards will show you information like overall traffic and conversions, and you can click different metrics to change the graphs. It will tell you the number of users on your site right now. There's live analytics right now. It'll tell you an overall conversion rate, the channels by which you acquire users. That's how people find your actual page, where people are before they get to your page. Social media, YouTube, Google search, whatever that may be. You can also see when your time of day where people are most on your website. So it's called user volume by day and hour. You can also create a customized dashboard. This dashboard is a collection of widgets that give you an overview of the reports and metrics you care about the most. So you can define widgets on the dashboard itself. And the widgets are like mini reports. And you can add different widgets right there in the dashboard. The dashboard is the home page. So, excuse me. So now that we've had a chance to look at the home dashboard, we can take a look at the different types of insights that are available within Google Analytics. We know that Google Analytics can seem really complex, and we could probably spend a whole weekend talking about this, and we're going to spend an hour today. But this is the overview of the categories and how you can mix and match filters to produce the reports. So real time is what's happening right now on your website. Um, and you can actually see who's or not who, but how many people are actually on your website right now, and what it is that they're doing. This isn't really useful unless you have a really high traffic website, I found. So, an audience report is great. You can actually learn about the characteristic of your users, such as their demographics, their interests, where they're accessing your website from, so geography, language, behavior, technology, and devices. So how they're accessing your website. In most cases, you can actually tell if they're a iPhone user or a Android user, um, PC or Mac, whatever it may be. You can actually see how it is that you're accessing your website. The acquisition report provides a window on your user's acquisition behavior conversion cycle. Basically, it's how you acquire users and the behavior on your website and their conversion patterns. The behavior report tells you how behavior varies between new and returning users for your website because they're going to do different things. A conversion report is the completion of an activity that's important to the success of your business, such as signing up for an email newsletter or making a purchase. You can use these reports to see how your channels work together to create sales. All right, so real time, what happens right now? I'm gonna just go. I'm not even gonna read through the whole information on this. This is really useful for people who have really high traffic websites, and you can see, like right now, what's going on. Um, it could be. This is really useful if, let's say you have a television commercial coming on Wednesday at 3 p.m. or something like that. You could actually get on during that and see if your website traffic increases during that time in real time. Um, Maybe you know that you have a news story coming up on the 5 o'clock news that's related to your business. So you can get on, you can watch in real time if people start hitting your website. So those things are great for any size business. Otherwise, really the bigger businesses kind of benefit from this page. So, all right. Okay. All right, so let's talk about the questions that we talked about earlier. We're going to start with reach. So think about reach as the people that you want to visit your website and become customers. Excuse me. Forming reach questions help you understand brand recognition and awareness about how people find you online. So let's go back to Ava and Ricky really fast. Um, if their goal was to increase online orders by 10% this month, they might ask, how do people find us online? If customers can't find your business online, they cannot make a purchase online. Duh. So think about reach questions that Ava and Ricky might ask. Do they have the correct name, address, and phone number published online? Is their website easy to remember and type? If they have an email newsletter, do people open it? Do they read it? Do they click through it? Um, you know, and even some things that are so simple, like if you have a business card, um, is your address right on your business card? Is your phone number right? Um, Things like that. And sometimes you can actually find that something's wrong. Maybe on your Google My Business account or something like that, you might have your website's wrong or something, or maybe your Facebook account has the wrong website. So you can actually, find errors that way. So if all of a sudden if you have a Facebook page that's relatively active and nobody's coming to your website from your Facebook page, you might want to check out why. Maybe you mistyped the name of your website in your Facebook page or something like that. So those are good ways to look at that there. So, audience reports, they provide insights to who your audience is, such as demographics, interests, geographical location, language, behavior, and technology. Um, Business owners often have a preconceived notion about who their audience is, but Google Analytics can help you learn more about your audience, and then it can kind of help you protect or detect a potential mismatch. So earlier we said that Ava and Ricky assumed that their target audience was females ages 35 to 44. But what they can actually see from their demographics report is that their largest audience is males ages 25 to 34. So that's going to change how they market their business. All right. So that is how you get to demographics there. All right. Okay, so acquisition reports. This is my favorite section when I use Google Analytics. This tells you how you acquire users, what they do on your website, and what conversion patterns they have. So you can actually see where traffic comes from and how certain channels perform. So Ava and Ricky use acquisitions reports to find out how people are discovering their online store, and how they're finding them through search. With this report, you can see in the screenshot, they can see the different sources of traffic that include their organic search, their social media, and their paid search. So you can see in the pie chart how people are getting to their website. So organic search is really large, which is really common. That's normal. Direct is when somebody type direct the green section is when somebody types in their website directly. So if it's um, Girl Geek LLC, they actually type that in directly to their URL and come that way. And then referrals are when like other websites are linked to them, and then they get to them. They're maybe on another website like Billings Gazette, and uh, they click through from there. So, all right. So this shows you. You go to on the left hand side, you go to acquisition, and then you go to overview, and it'll show you that stuff. Very cool. All right. So let's talk a little bit about engagement. Um, and we're going to kind of move through this. I know I'm kind of a little bit behind in my time, so I'm going to move through this pretty quick. But if you don't remember, I'm going to record this so that you can refer back to it later. So engagement is you ask questions uh, to help um, to help people to find out how they're interacting with your website. Do they navigate more to one page on your website? Do they watch videos? Do they search for things on their website? Do they download PDFs? What is it that they do when they're on your website? And maybe you might find that they get to a certain page on your website and then they leave. So that is one thing that you can check with your web designer, because it might be that they're pulling up a web page and it's not working, or it's not what they thought it was. So if you find that all of a sudden there's this one page where everybody leaves from, you might want to investigate why that's happening. All right, so this is a visual path. This is a behavior flow report. And what this does is it maps how people travel from one page or event to the next. And it helps you discover what content keeps users engaged with your site. And you can also identify potential issues, just like I mentioned, where people might get to a certain page and leave. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing. Like I mentioned before, there is actually on some web pages, people are looking for like your phone number. And once they get to the contact page that has like the map and phone number, they leave because what else they got the information they needed. So if you have something like that, don't get too freaked out. But if you have like a bunch of people going to like a blog post or something and they leave from there, maybe you better make sure that that blog post is working correctly, or that it is what it says it is. Like maybe it has the correct information on there. So that's a good way to check that out. And this is under behavior and behavior flow. You can check out that. All right, so conversions. Um, conversion questions help you find out how or if customers are turning into paying customers. Do they make a purchase? Do they sign up for a newsletter? Do they schedule an appointment? Whatever those goals are. So, some convert questions that you can ask is it easy to order from your online store? What social media channels drive the most sales? And would coupons or sales help to increase your orders? You can sometimes find if people are doing searches for things like coupons, or something like that. And so that could help you decide how you want to market your business. So conversion reports, this is under e-commerce and overview. You'll find this right here. So Um, we're going to click through that. All right, so sustainability. Sustained questions help you understand what customers say about you online. Do they like your products and services? Do they wish you did something better? What are people saying about your business online? So, um, one thing you could ask is sustained questions might be like, what color shirts do they want Ava and Ricky to make? Um, are they looking for a loyalty program? How can they be rewarded for continuing to buy merchandise from Ava and Ricky? So loyalty is under it's under audience behaviors and then new versus returning. So you can look at how returning visitors view your website differently than new visitors. All right. So what did Ava and Ricky learn? They learned that by using Google Analytics, and they discovered they were making decisions with their gut instinct, but that didn't really go well for them. They thought that their audience was 35 to 44-year-old females. It turns out after analyzing their data, it was actually 25 to 34-year-old males. So they also discovered that most of their traffic was coming from organic search and not paid ads. So they knew that their search engine optimization was working really well. And so they might be able to cut some costs on their paid advertising if they wanted to do that. So they were also able to see that most of their purchases are from new customers and first time visitors, but that their loyalty they should work on their customer loyalty. So they could add something like a newsletter or maybe like a birthday coupon or something to welcome people back, after they've made a purchase and join their newsletter. So there's a lot of things they could do to help increase that loyalty. But now they have the information to work with. Um, so actually, we just talked about this. So I'm going to skip this slide. All right. So clear as mud. We're going to go on. I got to pull up another set of slides here. So, because like I said, this is normally done in two parts. And so I just got to pull up another set of slides. So give me a quick minute. I'm going to stop presenting this. If you have any questions while I'm doing this part, you can just chime away. Otherwise, I'm going to pull up the next slide here. I know this is a lot of information, but I figured since we're doing it online, you can watch it later. Okay. All right, let me present my screen. Okay, welcome to part 2. You didn't know you left. Okay. So we've already talked about how to set up Google Analytics and some of the reports that you can do in Google Analytics. What we're going to talk about now are some more advanced things that you can do targeting and getting more in-depth information with the data that you are now getting with Google Analytics. So we don't need to go over part 1 again because we just literally did that. So goals. I know I've mentioned this a million times. Goals are super important. You can't achieve anything on your website if you don't have a goal in mind. So um, we're going to just mention goals again. We've talked about how important they are, but what you can actually do with Google Analytics is you can set up goals right within the software. So then it helps you kind of report to the higher ups or report as me as a marketing agent, it helps me report to my clients. And then I can actually track those goals better. So let me show you how you actually can do that. And these are the different types of goals. We're going to get at how to actually set these up. You actually set goals in the software. So these are some different types of goals that you can do. Goals fall into one of these four different types. Destination goals. Destination goals focus on a specific location loading. For example, your goal might be that customers sign up for a newsletter. In that case, the conversion would take place when the thank you for registering page loads on your website. Duration goals are focused on a session that lasts for a specific amount of time or longer. For example, your goal might be that your readers on your blog spend at least 20 minutes on your website reading blog pieces. In that case, the conversion would take place when they spend at least 20 minutes on a certain page that you've indicated. Page slash screens per session goal. This goal is when um, a certain page or screen per session is the number of pages or screens visited by a customer in one session. So, an example might be a visitor loads 5 pages within your site. So, this is if you want to keep people on your site and exploring around your site, you can actually set a goal that you want people to visit 5 pages or whatever number. Event goals. An event goal focuses on the action defined as an event is triggered. For instance, you may want a visitor to click on a video or click on a link to your social media, and then that event would trigger the completion of that goal. So if you want from your website, if you want people to visit your Facebook page, you set that up as an event goal. All right. So, setting up goals in Google Analytics software. You go into Google Analytics, you click on admin, and you navigate over to goals on the left-hand side, and you click new goal over in kind of towards the middle of the page, the big red button there. Now, you can have 20 goals per reporting view. So, if you want to track more than 20, you have to create additional views, it's called. So we'll just, and that's, you can see the create views thing. So one page will track 20 goals. That makes sense. So if you need more than that, you just got to do the create new view, which is over in this page right there. All right, so goal templates. When you create a new goal, you can actually use a template, and they are designed to help you set the actionable goals that meet your business standard objectives. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel here. You can edit the template before saving the goal, and the goal categories are revenue, acquisition, inquiry, and engagement. And you can see that over on the sample there. And it just helps you with some basic pre-filled configurations so that you don't have to get too complex. Custom goals you can do, they are where you set a certain type and determine the value that best fits your need for tracking. And then there's also SMART goals, which you don't see on the screen, but it's down below custom. SMART goals are quick and easy goals that are set up based on uh, if your Google Analytics is linked to your Google Ads account. And all you have to do there is select SMART goals from the goal type list and then give your goal a name. So that if you use Google Ads, you can connect the two and it can kind of help you walk through this advanced process. So we have our goal ready, but it's important to understand that goals usually represent the end to a journey. So during the journey, there are certain interactions that are important to us as the website owner, and we call those events. All right, so events are user interactions with content that can be measured independently from a web page or a screen load. Downloads, link clicks, form submission, video plays are all examples of actions you might want to analyze as events. These may or may not be the ultimate goal for your website, but they do offer great insight into what users are interacting with on your website. Events also offer great benefits on a single page or websites that may have a high bounce rate on certain pages. A bounce rate is measured in analytics, and it's what causes a bounce rate is when a session, uh, excuse me, a bounce rate is measured in analytics as a session that triggers only a single request, such as when a user views a single page on our website and then exits. They came to the site and didn't do anything measurable, and then they left. Now, this is not necessarily bad. So, remember how I mentioned that one of the top things people are looking for when they go to your website is where you're located or how to get a hold of you? So, sometimes directly from an organic search result, they may find that information, they may click on it, they may go directly to the page they need and then leave. So it's not necessarily a bad thing to have a high bounce rate. In some cases, and it can actually indicate that your search engine optimization is working correctly. It just depends on what page they're getting to and then leaving. So if you have a high bounce rate on like your home page, that's something to look at because they're not then navigating to other things. So maybe that's something to look at. People get a little freaked out about bounce rates, but it's not always horrible. All right, so Tag Manager. Google Tag Manager is a free management asset, and it allows you to quickly and easily update measurement codes and related code fragments, collectively known as tags, on your website and mobile apps. When a tag manager is installed, your website will be able to communicate with the tag manager servers, and that establish triggers that can cause your tag to fire when certain events occur. So, for instance, when somebody scrolls to the bottom of your homepage, or maybe they click on one of your videos. Now, Tag Manager is really complicated. We won't have time to get into all of that, but you can actually learn more about Tag Manager. Um, in this website right here, g.co/tag manager. So if you want to really get into some more complicated stuff, you can go in there. All right, so using events, there are tons of ways you can use events to gain insight on your user interaction. But let's take a look at this one screenshot. The top event is a quick view click with quick view click, which is simply a product preview that doesn't take you to another page, but instead offers additional detail and pricing about a product when a user clicks on it. Normally, this interaction would not be tracked, but because it was set up as an event, we can not only see that people are looking at products, but also which products are getting previews. All right, so let's talk about dimensions. Um, so we've set up Google Analytics, and it's likely you've been using dimensions all along, but you don't really know that that's what it's called. Dimensions are the different attributes for your data in Google Analytics. For example, the dimension city indicates the city a user session originates from, like New York or Chicago. Other dimensions could include the device or the browser used to access your website. Each report you view offers a primary dimension for which you can use to view your data, but sometimes the primary dimension isn't enough, and you may want to view your data with um, more in-depth information. That's where secondary dimensions come into play. They allow us to add another dimension onto our current report and get a way more in-depth view about that information. So here's how you set up dimensions. You go to the area that in this sample, we're going to use a geographical dimension, and we can find out more about uh, that by going to audience, then geo, then location. And you'll select the primary dimension that you want to do, and then you can use the drop down menu to select a secondary dimension. Oops, okay. All right. So we can also use filters to specify what segment of data you want to include or exclude in your Google Analytics data set. If I type in Dallas in the filter and click the search button, now I can just see Dallas. And that's the city we might want to focus on. So clicking on the advanced section allows me to filter the functions like with multiple filter criteria and exclusions. Um, so, all right, so segments. Segments are a subset within the analytics data that you can isolate to analyze and respond to the trends in your business. So, for example, let's say you own a merchandise business with an online store. Of all your site visitors on one segment might be users in a particular country or city. Another segment might include users who only purchase t-shirts. So, what can you do with segment data? Well, let's say by looking at the segment data of customers in a particular geographic location, you notice that a specific group is no longer purchasing hats from your merchandise store. So this might give you an insight that leads you to figure out that another business in that geographic location is also selling hats with a similar design at lower prices. So you can change your designs or your pricing strategy to compete with that location. You can also use segments in your remarketing. For example, you can create a segment of users who only visit or purchase from your kids' t shirt page and then target them with remarketing campaigns that only offer new items or promotion for kids. All right, using segments. Um, the default segments for analytics is all users, which allows you to view the data for all users that view your website. There will be Um, there will often be times when you want to focus on a specific subset or segment of that data. So you can use filters or subsets of users, sessions, or hits. Subsets of users include consumer activity on your website, such as users who have previously purchased or those who have added items to their shopping cart but didn't complete a purchase. Subsets of sessions could be including interactions by a single user that are grouped into sessions, such as all sessions originating from a holiday campaign or all sessions where a purchase occurred. Subsets of hits are interactions during this session. So, hits that could include page views, events, or transactions. An example of a hit includes a subsection of segments that resulted in revenue greater than $15. So you can utilize, as you can see, you can utilize the standard system provided by segments to view, or even you can use it to compare data. In our example, we're viewing data for several traffic source segments as well as users who made a purchase at the same time in a certain demographic overview report. So here's how you create a segment. So you're going to go to the audience that you want to look at, and you'll click new segment, and you'll give that segment a name, and then you will populate the criteria that will define your segment. And that will be, whatever criteria that is. If you want direct traffic or people who bounced or whatever that may be, and then you hit save. All right, so here's how you can use Google Analytics with other Google tools, such as Google Ads or Search Console. So, if you use multiple Google products, you can maximize the benefit of those products by linking them and sharing data across the linked accounts. Google Analytics can be linked with multiple products, such as Google Ads or Google Search Console, to provide better insight into your customer's journey from when they click on an ad or when they do a search result all the way to the conversion or lack thereof on your website. So there are several products that you can link to your Google Analytics account. We're just going to mention two of the most popular ones here, which is Google Search Console and Google Ads. So first, you need to create an account for each product that you want to link. So you're going to go to the admin section of analytics, and from there, click on all products. Under the product linking heading in the property section. So from here, you click the link button for each product that you want to link to analytics. The process for linking these are going to vary slightly for everything that's involved, but it will help. It'll just walk you through each step. Now, you want to make sure that when you have different things you're using, such as Google Ads or Google Search Console, that you use the same email address um, to for each one of those accounts. So if you accidentally set up Google Ads under your like personal Gmail account versus like your work account, it's going to be really difficult to link those. So try to, when you're setting up these different products, make sure that you're logged in under your work account or the Gmail account you use for your business so that it's easier to connect these accounts. So why link to Google Analytics? What you can learn is what happens after a user clicks on a Google ad. Um, you can target specific users based on their previous behavior. You can also you can find more information about what people are searching for. So let's say people are searching for blue T-shirts, and they land on your site from the Google ad bot, and they you have a Google ad running, and they click on your ad like 45% of the time. Um, but they only come but when they do a search for, like, red T-shirts, they only end up on your site, like, 3% of the time. So what you can do there is you can go into your Google Ads, and maybe you need to increase the amount of, money that you're spending on red T-shirts, ads versus blue T-shirts, because the blue T-shirt is obviously working pretty well, but the red isn't. You can also target specific users based on their previous behavior. So, by linking your Google Analytics with your ads account, you can define customer groups by their activity on your website. So, for instance, you can identify the audience who has put three or more items in your shopping cart, but then abandoned the cart. So, by offering this group a temporary promotion, you may be able to convert them with shopping cart abandonment. You can use advanced machine learning. Google Analytics uses machine learning to help you get the most out of your data. You can also better understand your organic traffic and how certain keywords either do or do not convert. So, by linking Google Search Console with your Google Analytics, you'll be able to better understand your organic traffic and the conversions that either do or don't take place when somebody reaches your website. You can like I mentioned before, you can actually have several different account managers. So if you have a web designer who wants to be able to access this, if you have a marketing agency, you can actually add them to be able to look at these analytics. They're not going to hurt your website from here or do any harm or anything like that. They just are going to be able to look at the same data that you're looking at. So you get to that from you click on admin and then user manager, and then you can just add people. So that's always nice. Okay, so we've covered a million things today. I'm just going to go over a few other resources that you can use to help learn more about the stuff that we talked about today because it's a lot. I know it's a lot. I had one person just leave because they probably were like, my brain's fried. All right, so this is one of my favorite apps. It's called Google Primer. And Google Primer is it's for business and marketing lessons that you can do on your phone, and they are designed to be less than 5 minutes. And you can get it from either the Google App Store or your Apple Store. And the little the icon looks like a green flag. And they're short, fun lessons that you can do in 5 minutes or less. And there's a ton of information on there. Google Analytics, Google My Business, Google Search Console, how to do SEO on your website. There's a whole host of things. So check that out. It's really fun. I love to do that when I'm sitting like waiting for something. There's also training available for Google Analytics as well as Google Ads. And you can go to g.co/skillshop and there's access all kinds of classes for free, and these cover everything from basic all the way up to advanced users. So check this out. They're stuff to you can actually just go at your own pace, and if you're interested in getting like Google product certified and like analytics or something like that, these actually will really help you when you take the test for that. So if you do have an online store, this is a new feature called g.co/grow my store. You can put the website of your online store in there, and it'll come back and it'll tell you some things that you can do to help your online store to make it a better user experience. So quick videos. These are short videos about how to use your Google tools, like how to create a YouTube channel, how to get on Google Search and Map. And you can see the link down there on the bottom. All right. So, like I mentioned at the start of this, my volunteer program is called Grow with Google, and you can find more information about that at google.com/grow. They have information and classes available for not just small business owners, but also for teachers and students, job seekers, and for developers. They also have classes that are specifically designed for veterans. So if that fits you, then that might be something you want to look into. So they have partner led programs like the one I'm doing right now. They also have people in their Google headquarters that put on special training with webinars now. Um, and you can sign up for those. They're all free. So that is all the information I have. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask them. I'm going to stop the recording.